government of Antigua and Barbuda continues to take every practical and legal measure to position ourselves to win this battle. We do not take lightly the threats of the self-styled Stanford Victims Coalition. Our overseas missions and consulates are playing and will continue to play a critical role in the government's actions, as will our tourism offices. We are in discussions with Overseas Council and intend to defend our country, our treasury, our citizens' welfare, and our patrimony. We encourage all patriotic Antiguans and Barbudans, wheresoever they may reside, to marshal their forces and join in our collective defense of fair Antigua and Barbuda. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the Honourable Minister will now entertain your questions, and as a matter of note, the Honourable Minister will not be able to respond to your questions as they relate to any alleged legal matters posed by any grouping, as she has just mentioned that Antigua and Barbuda has not been served with any legal documents to date. Please identify yourselves and pose your questions. Thank you.
Anika Kentish, Observer Radio, etc. First question. Senator Massiah indicated that the Baldwin Spence administration had received no loan from Stanford. Question though, the government is a government, regardless of who's in charge. I'm just getting an idea as to what the thinking is, distancing yourself from that when the Stanford victims are charging that it was the government, not necessarily the UPP or the ALP, who have been doing certain things with the Stanford, with Alan Stanford and his empire.
Thank you for your question. We well appreciate that government is continuous. However, we feel it is important to identify the period in which these alleged fraudulent activities took place. Currently, as the investigation is ongoing, certainly from a domestic point of view, the Ministry of Finance and all the other relevant ministries, FSRC and other statutory corporations, are compiling their information in respect of any loans or any other financial arrangements which were entered into between Stanford and his entities and the government of Antigua and Barbuda. I'm sure you can well appreciate that the time period is very long. The documents, insofar as they were held by the Stanford group of companies, has not been as easy to put our hands on, but the relevant technicians on our side continue to work very assiduously to piece everything together for us to have a more fulsome view as to exactly what had transpired and where any breaches, if any, would have occurred.
Senator, you raised the question about the government's response. There is communication to the effect that the government was written since April of last year.
By whom?
By the Stanford Victims Coalition. Is that so, and why wasn't there a response then?
Well, as I said earlier, to the best of my information, the Attorney General's information, the government's information, the Prime Minister's attention, we have not received any correspondence, any service of any legal document from any personal persons alleging any fraud or malfeasance in this matter. So we just have no clue. That correspondence, I don't know where it was sent. Our overseas missions have indicated they're not in receipt of any such correspondence, and so we are still a little curious as to where that correspondence would have been sent.
So you've never received anything from the Stanford victims?
No.
Even though they're charging that that the government has refused service, specifically the Attorney General has refused service of these documents that they're talking about.
Well, what I would encourage them to do is to perhaps come forward with a little bit more detail as to this alleged refusal to accept service of documents. And perhaps if any correspondence were sent as far back as April last year, I would think the responsible thing to do would be to resend the documents.
Noral Joseph, DK Radio. You said the government has not been serviced with any legal documents, etc. But the SVC, through the U.S. Senate, filed a resolution which is pending a vote, asking, among other things, for the country to be blocked from IMF funding, etc., etc. Why, since so long, since December 19th last year to now, has there not been an official response to this dilemma?
Well, I'm sure you can well appreciate the actions that any senator or senators might take in the U.S. Congress cannot be considered service of any document. And in fact, I am personally aware that when this matter first arose, our ambassador, Lovell, in Washington, has had quite a number of meetings with the proposers of these resolutions. In fact, recently, Ambassador Lovell met with Congressman Kaufman, who is the mover of the resolution. And I think it is also important to note that that resolution did not have any co-signers. But, as I said earlier, our diplomatic missions continue to respond as appropriately in this matter. Understanding, of course, not everything that's done in diplomatic circles can be made, we can't have a fancy about it all. But Ambassador Lovell, in particular, has been on the ball and continues to work assiduously in respect of this matter.
So the government position is that it has not received any service of any legal suit from...
No, we haven't. The only, as I said, the only...
So you're waiting until you get something to respond officially to this conflict victims coalition?
I would say so. We have been responding. But insofar as responding to them as a group, for instance, I wouldn't know what address to send in response to. And I don't know that I wouldn't know what to answer in the absence of receipt of an official correspondence laying out specific charges and perhaps seeking assistance in respect of any number of matters.
But even in the absence of a suit, okay? A statement was released by the group, I'm sure you've seen, which sets out what their concerns are and what they want to do about it. Even at that very basic level, this thing has gone to all corners of the world, saying certain things about Bermuda. It goes back to the question that I was asking them. Number one, what do you plan to do in terms of response? And why so long before any public statement about it?
Let me try to put things into better context. Insofar as my response that we have not received any service of any legal process, that is purely from the legal perspective. And understandably, we cannot respond to claims for which we have not received a suit. The other aspect of it, I'm sure we'd all agree, involves the whole issue of the public relations on this matter. And I can assure you that since the actions by the SVC, particularly at the trade show, we immediately, through our tourism offices in New York, specifically Mrs. Samuel Whitlock and her team, we have responded to the SVC. In fact, we are also working with a PR firm in the United States, and we are in communication with them almost every day. Almost every day, but specifically when the SVC has acted, we have responded along the lines similar to the statements that I would have just read in terms of the facts as they would have unfolded in this matter.
What type of response has that been? Have you utilized media there to counteract what they're saying? How have you responded?